Good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Braxton Gray, joined alongside Kaz Dino and, of course, Coach Everham. And Kaz, I think last night was definitely one of the most exciting games we called all season.
Well, I go back to Coach's comment. He said, Coach, quote, the biggest game of his coaching career, end quote. I mean, that really sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Coach, before we get started, I know we talked about this briefly last night, but you really couldn't expand on it because you were so excited. But senior night, I saw with Ray, you walked out with him. And, that's just huge for you as a coach and just shows the bond you guys have as a team and players. You don't have to go into details exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that was huge. And Ray will probably never forget that moment in his career.
Well, it's the least I could do. I told you last night that we are, one of the things that we pride ourselves on, I think as a program, is that we're all family. And, last night in the locker room was a special, time because we had, a lot of our middle school players that, there had to be 15 to 25, middle school players and youth league players that came into the locker room and celebrated with us. But I think you look at the relationship that like somebody like Ethan Hardy has with the younger guys, and when I say younger guys, like young kids, and the time that they put into the program with our summer camps and going and watching them play in the Junior Warrior stuff, we are. It is true. We're one big family. We got each other's back, and last night I think was really easy for me to kind of demonstrate that with Ray and his senior night. It was kind of like, obviously senior night's a special night for those guys, and so I think it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Coach, one of the things I thought was really, really great was you starting the seniors. You had five seniors on the team, and they all start, and they had the lead until you start subbing.
Yeah, we had set up a plan for that, and it's just like anything else. We look at all different possibilities. Do you start the seniors? Do you hope that you get up? At the end of the game, you really would like to get them on the floor, and so we were pretty jacked up, to start the game. Ray gets a big offensive rebound and kicks it out to Miller to start us off, and so he actually has rebounded the ball well when he's gotten in there. And he understands his role and what is expected of him in practice and in games and stuff like that. But for him to go in and contribute, he makes the layup a couple weeks ago at the end of the game. In some mop-up minutes, but this one was a big play. So he's had a couple moments, and I'm just really proud of him. And Martin, too. Martin got in the game, early on, handled the ball well, and we built a little bit of a lead before we got those other guys in. So, you're always a little nervous because those guys haven't had a whole lot of court time, in big moments, and you worry about them throwing it up in the upper deck, when they get the ball.
Well, it didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. And we got a 5-0 lead right off the bat, and then we put Cameron and Dukes in the game and subbed those guys out. So they did their job. That's kind of what it's been all year long. Just do your job, and they obviously did their job.
What did they think about starting? What? I mean, they seemed like, like they were walking on air there.
Yeah.
They were really excited about being able to do that.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point. The minutes on the floor, when they start the game, are certainly something that they'll never forget. But, the starting lineups, you got the lights off, you got the music playing, and you get your name called, and those are things that just don't ever leave your brain.
No,
they're just memories that, and as a coach, X's and O's wise, and you sit there and you're talking about every scenario, and you think, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can afford to, to not get off to a good start. Maybe we shouldn't start those guys. But I think when it's all said and done, what I told Coach O'Connell was that, look, man, this is a game. This is a game, and this is an opportunity for us as a coaching staff to really give these guys a moment for all the work that they put in and all the time and things of that nature. I don't care if we do get off to a bad start. They're starting the game, and they're going to have their moment. And they understood, when the first dead ball came, that they'd come out of the game. So we kind of laid it all out, make sure everybody's good. And obviously it worked out for us.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about the actual game itself, Coach. You said it was the biggest coaching win of your career. Do you want to expand on that? Because, we know it's a winning season because you hit the 12-game mark. but it was against your former team as well because you actually went to Goshen High School.
I did, and I tell you that the more I play against them, the probably less of a thing that is. You kind of forget. You get a little older and
a little older.
Yeah, a little
not
bit.
older, just a little older.
I had, I'll tell you, again, I say this every week, but a little behind the scenes thing that I just thought of.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, I'm a big Goshen fan. Obviously, I'm from Goshen, and I really like Coach Wolford. He does a great job. I've been on mission trips, with him and his wife, and spent some quality time with him. He's a good person. And I certainly, other than one game a year, I'm really rooting for Goshen to win. And there's a rivalry between Goshen and Northwood that runs pretty deep with me. And I had actually their JV coach a few years back had cleaned out some jerseys and noticed my jersey, like literally the one I wore, was one that they were tossing out. So he saved it, a red one and a gray one, and he gave it to me. That was really pretty nice of him to do that. But my son and I put on those jerseys, and we're kind of goofing around at home. I took a picture and sent it to him, and I said, "Beat Northridge tonight." I said the rivalry runs pretty deep. So I think it goes to show I have a lot of respect for Coach Wolford and the Goshen basketball program. And but the more times I play him, the less it really I even think about that being my alma mater. But I know the newspaper was trying to get me going on down that road, and it really wasn't a factor. It wasn't the reason why it was the biggest game. I thought the biggest game of my coaching career. I thought just because of the seniors being with me from the moment I was hired. And we've been through a lot of ups and downs, and probably more downs than I originally thought that we'd have, and so for those guys to stick with me and to be loyal to the coaching staff, be loyal to me, it's really one of those things that, like, okay, this particular game gives us a chance to have a winning record. 12 wins guarantees you a winning record. To be on senior night, and we're honoring seniors. These guys have been with me for so long. From where we've been, the basketball program, we've had, and you don't like to talk about it a whole lot, but there's been plenty of naysayers out there that have said, not with these guys. You're going to have to wait until your middle school kids start running through before you can win, and they looked at Austin, and they looked at Ethan, and they looked at Jaden, and they're like shaking their head like it's not going to happen. And we've I have some stories that I can't share, people that have literally told me right to my face, I'm not going to do this with you because it's not possible, and so I think for the accomplishment over the course of time, to me it was like, this is the biggest game of my career. And I've coached in some really big basketball games and won, and the journey you take when you become a head basketball coach in the state of Indiana, I have some really high highs, and I probably to the point where it gave me too big of a head, and I become complacent, and then you're humbled, and so when I come to Wawasee, obviously there was some work to do, and I needed the right guys to get to work in order for this to be a real possibility. And I just couldn't have stumbled upon better guys, in Miller and Hardy and Ben Hoffert from last year, Josh Slayball and Aaron Evans, and those types of guys have gotten us to where, we're at today. So last night, obviously, it was a pretty special moment.
And
for
your
us.
coaching staff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. While he's doing the thing, I like to go and watch you and your interaction with O'Connell and Holford and Coy. I mean, you guys, we have like one brain together.
Yeah, there's no doubt we're you don't want your coaching staff always to be on the same page, because I think one way and those guys are comfortable enough to tell me, hey, I don't think so. There's a couple times I was trying to switch defenses, but I always say we got 2 votes here, with Coach O'Connell and I. And if we don't vote the same, I don't do it, And so if we're not on the same page, I don't do it. But you talk about, recruiting. When I first got here, again, you're trying to find, okay, well, where do we start? The starting point was finding the right people to be on the coaching staff. And then, Chad Hoffert has been with us, again, since day one, and coaches the middle school team and sits to my left, during the varsity games. And he's been, as an assistant coach, has been down to the state finals and I can remember specifically, I know where I was and when I heard that there was a possibility that, Kem Zolman is retiring from the math department, which was going to open up a math job. And somebody ran into Nate O'Connell, and said, he mentioned that he might. I was like, I called him, and it was like 10:30 at night. And I called him. I said, get your coffee pot ready because I'm coming over in the morning. I just heard that you are toying with the idea of coming back to Wawasee. And so I was there early in the morning. We sat on his back porch and we just talked about, look, you're in a great situation here at Warsaw. You guys have built a monster, and success guaranteed pretty much every year. And I said, we haven't done that. We're trying to build something, and I need your help. And, I gave him the spiel, and obviously it worked, and he came over here and is coaching with us now. So you'll have to ask him about that cup of coffee that he choked down that morning, because he's like, oh, man, I could tell he was probably going to do it at that point. I said, but I knew there would be some bumps in the road. I told him we're not good right now, and we got a lot of work to do. And so, without that hire, we're not where we're at today. There's no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And final question on the segment, Coach.
Already? What
it goes.
I'm only in here for 2 segments.
But it wasn't just against Goshen. You talked about last week winning 3 NLC games in a season has not happened since around the 2005 season, I believe. And you guys got to accomplish that last night. And you actually won 3 NLC games. And, unfortunately, you guys didn't get as many as you'd like, but 3 in one season for your team, especially since, we went on that little bit of a drought earlier on season. Yep. What does that mean to you as a coach?
Well, I think it really signifies that we haven't necessarily, I wouldn't even use the term arrived, but we certainly are somebody that, when people are looking at our scores and they're watching us play, that they know we're the real deal. I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk, and teams are going to have to play actually really well to beat us. And so there's not a team that we're going to play from here on out that can't beat us. We may not, honestly, win another game because the teams we play are pretty good. Starting with tonight at Mishawaka, we got Westview on Tuesday that's ranked 5th or 6th in Class 2A. And then East Noble is really strong too with the 1,000-point score. You can go down the list. Tippy Valley is playing a lot better, and then you never know on the sectional draw. But what was the question? I can't even remember.
Oh, just 3 NLC games, 3 NLC wins in one season.
I think what that represents is they know we're here. We're here, and it's legit. It is legit. We're not just accidentally, stumble upon, a few victories here and there. We're doing things that are really good. Especially on the defensive end, the way we're rotating. We're utilizing our best defender in a way that is really creative, and only if you really, really understand basketball, you know how hard it is to do what we're doing, because we're rotating really well. I don't know if we're playing a man or a zone. Neither does anybody else. They don't know whether to run man stuff against us or zone stuff against us, and you see both during the games. We kept Goshen out of the paint, so they never really scored inside the paint, and that's basically playing 4-on-5, because Miller's chasing one guy around, and so we're doing some things that are legit. I mean, really, really well, and offensively we're doing just enough to really create some problems, and we didn't play particularly well on the offensive end last night. I think Miller did, but Ethan Hardy was, I think, 1 for 7, and Dukes might have been 3 for 9, so there's still room for improvement on the offensive end for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But, Coach, we're going to take a short break. Right. But once we return, we'll talk about, Miller's performance, the last-second shot, and a little bit more about this Goshen game. So we'll be right back with more Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix. Good morning and welcome back to Coach's Corner. Coach, let's just dive right into it. Austin Miller probably had one of the best games of his whole entire, maybe even his career, but I know for sure this season. He scored 27 points, and he almost shot anywhere he wanted on the court and hit everything, it seemed like.
Yeah, it was that. I think by far was his best game of his career. And people see the points, and obviously that's awesome. But the amount of, when you play a box and one like we do, the amount of running that you have to do, chasing somebody around on the defensive end, he puts forth so much energy On the defensive end, sometimes you wonder how in the world is he going to survive till the end of the game. So, he was really, really good on Drew Hogan for a long, long time. And to be honest with you, we got a problem tonight, and I don't know. Actually, I know the freshman tournament's going on right now as we speak, and I saw the head coach from Fairfield, who I respect a lot, and I'm going to go talk to him about this. But we poured out so much energy and emotion in last night's game. You just wonder, how we're going to flip it around and perform tonight against Mishawaka, because it just takes a lot out of you to do what we did during the week of practice. We had a tough week of practice. Jack broke his arm. Obviously, we can talk about that just a little bit, but that was a tough break. I mean, literally. But and then Austin coming off sickness, he was not right. I'm telling you, he was really, really sick on Monday of this week. And Tuesday of this week, I had him practice about 30 minutes on Monday, about an hour on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, had a little talk with him. I said, look, man, if you're going to play on Friday and Saturday, I said, you need to practice well today, like with full energy and effort, because he's kind of, and it was because he's still sick. On Monday and Tuesday, he just couldn't quite get the energy up, and I pulled him out of practice, and so I watched him last night, and he ran out of gas.
Yes.
And he ran out of gas, and I look over at Hardy, and Hardy is literally having trouble catching his breath, and I called timeout. That's like 4 minutes to go in the game. We're gassed, 100% gassed. So all the physical effort that it takes to do what we did last night, the emotional toll, we just laid it all on the floor, one game. And the guys knew it was a huge game. I honestly don't know right now, as we sit here right now, I don't know how we're going to muster up, the juice to get going again tonight, because we're short one guy with Jack, and he's not coming back. And then, we got Miller and Hardy, kind of coming off sickness, and they're not quite 100%, So what we look like in our shoot around, how we recover from that stuff is going to be really interesting today, actually.
Yeah, that's actually Kaz and I kind of talked about that. We saw you guys were gassed, and personally, if we would have went into overtime, I don't think the outcome would have been the same.
Way, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Goshen would have took that game. But let's talk about the goods, because we don't want to go that way. It didn't happen. Luckily, we were able to pull it out. But let's talk about Jaden Boyer's game-winning shot. And I haven't seen Wallacey student section being able to celebrate like that in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
It's been probably 4 years since we've been able to rush the court, do something like that. And it was just amazing to see.
Yeah, it was. And you talk about, that being a big game. I think it was everything, obviously being senior night and hitting a shot like Jaden hit. But our community, I got so many texts from just people around our community that just said, that's Indiana basketball right there. It
is,
kids,
isn't it?
Think about, the kids in the student section and how happy they are for the guys on the floor. There are times when, when you just don't have a connection with student section for whatever reason, and the team, they just don't quite have that connection. But I'm telling you, our guys are so likable and they work so hard that it's the people in the community are recognizing what's happening. And I think our students in our school are just so proud to be a Warrior and say, hey, our team's taking the floor. And then when something like last night happens, like the emotions just spill over and everybody's happy, and so we just haven't had, moments where it's like, I don't like this guy, I don't like that guy. It's like everybody's on the same team. It's like our school, our community, and everything. And we'd love to push it just a little bit further and maybe pick up a couple more wins this regular season, and we'll have a chance for a sectional championship.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's when, things start to multiply.
One of the things I really like is the beginning. We talked about this very briefly, but the introductions where all those kids are on the floor, and that it really just feeds their enthusiasm. Yeah. And then the starting five. Oh my gosh, when those seniors went by there, talk about that just a little bit.
Well, you've been in education a long, long time and working with kids. We're here for the kids, right? And Braxton, getting a chance to do the radio and how cool it is. These are things that you're never going to forget, calling games, and you'll probably pull up a YouTube video 10 years from now and be like, oh man, that was cool, that was fun, right?
Yep.
we're here to create experiences for young people that are memorable, that they can take away. Like, that was fun. High school was fun. And so I think, it's everybody, it's small things like moving the pep band from the upper deck. They felt like they were kind of away from, being a part of the student section, moving the pep band down into the student section and letting them do their, crazy nights. The last night was America, their flag, whatever. And so you got to give our students a ton of credit, for being involved in the game and the cheerleaders. I mean, it's honestly, it's like everybody is on the same page right now and rooting on the Warriors. And so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, Coach, Jaden Boyer's last second shot, he didn't score any points, but he had a very well-rounded game. But as a senior on senior night hitting that shot, Jaden Boyer told us on the radio, I don't know if you're up there, he said that was his best moment of his high school career.
Yeah, that's it's really hard to top. I mean,
yeah.
He got fouled too, and the referee did call the foul. He would have been, if the ball wouldn't have gone in, he would have had a chance to make one free throw to win the game. That would have been quite a moment too. But that ball going through that hoop, and there wasn't anybody in that gymnasium that was rooting for the Warriors. That wasn't standing and jumping around.
Absolutely.
I saw Mr. Beasley was sitting with my dad and a couple of his friends at the very top. Well, Mr. Beasley ran down the ran down. I mean, it was there's one shot that I saw that kind of had the whole gymnasium covered, and everybody just raises their hands and starts cheering. So those are the moments that you sell to the young kids too.
Yeah.
And having our middle school and some of our junior Warriors in the locker room, I said, guys, if you want to have experiences like this, you better get to work.
Yeah.
We're going to give you plenty of opportunities to come in and get better and work. And if you want to do it, there's no reason why you can't do it. And so those games like last night build programs, sustainable success.
And one of the other things I really liked was, again, we talked about this during the break, is the teamwork. I mean, it wasn't Miller. I know he got 27 points.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the way he passed the ball, the way he got the ball, the defense of everybody, oh, my gosh. We were watching the defense in the second half, and you guys, the Wawasee kids, were living in the Goshen jerseys.
Yeah. Our hands, we forced. It's not very often you see what you're seeing, and it's a little hard to explain, but, to force Goshen into 16 turnovers without – ever trapping or running a trapping defense.
Yeah.
We're playing a pack line, sagging, man-to-man defense, and we forced them into 16 turnovers to the point where I heard Coach Wolford say, you have to hold on to the ball with two hands. Well, you want to know why he said that is because we get our hands are so active and so quick that we can get in there and get out of there without fouling. And it squirts the ball loose, and people are like, well, what the heck was that? I had the ball, now I don't, and so, we're taking great pride in our defense. Our rotations were really, really good last night for about 3.5 quarters, and honestly, we got tired. But again, when you're guarding man-to-man, when you're guarding a man, you're literally helping off but staying on a man. When you're rotating like we are, you're not guarding one man. You're trying to go from one side of the floor to the other, and you got to sprint. And so it takes a lot of energy to do what we're doing. The kids are obviously buying into that style of defense. And I'll tell you, the other thing too, and Coach O'Connell and I were talking about last night, nobody else does it. This is something we dreamed of. Like, okay, we're sitting, downstairs in my house or over at Coach O'Connell's house, and we're thinking, all right, how, we could get guys that keep, no, that's not going to work. And then what if we didn't, it's like all of a sudden we went with something. I actually pulled in one of my former coaches from Goshen.
Really?
Who's now living down in Indianapolis, and he is about the smartest basketball coach that I know. And I actually texted him this morning, but he came up and we put him up at the Oakwood, and we asked him to help us out, and
really?
So we sat for hours and hours and hours and talked about, okay, here's what we're thinking, is this possible that this could even work? Because nobody else is doing it. Nobody else, somebody somewhere probably has thought of it, but what we're doing is not normal. That's why teams are having so much trouble adjusting to, they don't know what we're doing. And so anyway, but our guys bought into that, and it all starts with Austin Miller because he's got the other team's best player, and he doesn't have to worry about anything other than one guy.
Yeah, and absolutely, Coach. Final question for you. We talked about it briefly. Stover, he broke his wrist. He's probably out for the rest of the regular season. Do you think he's going to be able to maybe come back for a sectional championship run, or is it that kind of out of the picture? And what does that impact on your team do?
Yeah, no, he's going to be out for not only the season, he'll be out for the probably the spring workouts, as well. Maybe after spring break, he can start working on some stuff. But you know what? When I was little, I broke my left thumb, and I became the shooter I was because I broke my left thumb, because I had a cast on my thumb. I was always a thumb shooter.
Oh, wow.
And so I always thought that was a big moment in my development of how to shoot a basketball when I broke my thumb. And so we're trying to sell it that way. It really sucks. And you think, there's you could feel sorry for yourself, but he does have a left hand. And so we're going to work with him on, some left-handed, mic and drills. And, so I think he's going to get better with his left hand, which he needs to. But no, he's not coming back. When he broke his arm, in practice, his arm is literally like at a 45-degree angle, and it was a bad break. And he looked at me and he said, "Coach, I think," he goes, "I think I broke my wrists." And I was like, "No, you didn't break your wrist." He goes, "Oh, good. Phew. Well, he broke his arm." So he said, "Well, how long?" He goes, "How long you think I'm going to be out if it's broken?" I said, "Probably 5 or 6 days." I said, "You should be back by next week." And he goes, "Oh, good." I was like, "Just don't look at your arm." So he had his head turned. I wouldn't let him look at his arm because it's like sideways. But I thought that was pretty humorous. And then I'll tell you this too, but the trainer comes over who is filling in for Trevor, and it was her first day here, and she felt kind of bad. But I told Jack, I said, when we get this splint on your arm, I said, I'm gonna need you to get back in there on defense. I said, you move your feet, rotate and blah blah blah. You make sure you close out hard. And the trainer looks at me. She's like, "Oh, Coach, I don't think he should go back in and play." I was like, "Well, he's going to," like that. And I'm totally messing with her. Obviously he's got an arm that's sideways. He's not going back into practice. But, sometimes you got to look at the bright side. You got to, make light of things that don't go well,
Wow.
And so the other thing too, our kids, it didn't obviously affect them last night when really you could feel sorry for yourself. It's an easy excuse, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we lost a player. We lost one of our starters. I guess we're going to lose tonight. Well, there was no, other than how tired we got, there really was you wouldn't really have known we had a guy out, last night. So it's a credit to our guys and how they stepped up and kind of did their job,
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, that's Coach Everingham. Coach, thanks for your time. But coming up next, we have senior Jaden Boyer and senior Martin Cant. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix. Good morning and welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm now joined by senior Jaden Boyer and senior Martin Cant. And let's start with you, Martin. Last night was your first start ever in a Indiana basketball game, and we heard about it because I've been over to talk to coaches. You said it's a little bit different than where you're from. So talk about where you're from and how it's different here.
Yeah, I'm from Germany, and it's way different. So in Germany, basketball is not a big deal like this. So we play in a gym, and whether we win or lose, it doesn't really matter. So we just play like for whatever. And here it's a huge deal. So yesterday the game, I think it was the best game I've ever seen.
It was, yeah, and you got a start in that. Were you excited to start your first varsity game?
That was awesome. I was really, really cool. I mean, usually I don't get to start in a varsity game, and even though it was just a couple seconds,
right,
just the beginning, that was nice.
Yeah, and let's just talk about your experience here so far. What are some of your favorite things just about the whole exchange program, and what have you been able to experience culture-wise here in Indiana?
It's not just the basketball, it's like in general the school and all that school spirit. So like all the kids come to watch the game, and we have like that whole student section who watches the game actually. And in Germany we don't have that, so like we play there and there are like 3 or 2 people who are coming to watch the game, but they're not really watching the game. It's not just their parents or grandparents.
Yeah, absolutely. And back in Germany, do you go to high school? Is it high school, or like what is the schooling like in Germany?
Yeah, I go to a high school too, so I have 13 years. My high school is 1 year longer, and it's not that nice. So like, school is really, really boring, really plain, and you just go there and every day the same. And after school you go home. You don't have any sports at school, and I like it better here. So
you like it better here? Well, you can't stay, but you can always come back for visits because you'll always be welcome here. And let's talk to you, Jaden. Last night you hit probably the biggest shot of your career. Those are only points of the night, but everybody just erupted. Everybody jumped around, and it was super exciting to watch.
Yeah, it was just amazing game from start to finish. And then the end was just unbelievable. We couldn't have wrote it any better way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was going through your mind? Because, you inbounded the ball, and nobody really thought you were going to be the one to make the shot. So what just went through your mind on that shot?
Yeah, so inbounding the ball, I was just like, I have to get this ball in. So then when I got it in, I was supposed to go to the corner. So I went out to the corner, and I saw that shot go up, and I'm just like, I knew it was going to be short, so I was like, I have to go get that because there's a chance I can put it back in, and then so that's what I did.
Yeah, and it was definitely very exciting to watch. But, Jaden, we've already talked to you on the show, so we know a little bit about you. Martin, let's keep talking to you. So how much longer are you here in the United States, in Indiana?
I stay until the end of the school year, and then my parents come over, and we have like a little vacation here.
Oh, so your parents are actually going to come back.
Yeah,
so that's going to be exciting. And have you been able to experience any of the culture? Like, have you ever been able to travel to Chicago?
Yeah, with my host parents, we traveled to Indianapolis and to Chicago too. And
yeah, so that's kind of exciting. Is it a lot, like the culture is a lot different than back home?
Yeah, the cities are huge. They're way bigger and lots of cars and people, and it's bigger.
And then, I've always wondered, how's the food? Is it better here or in Germany?
You mean the house? Like?
No, the food. The food.
Oh, the food, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like it here better, like pizza and burger and...
I mean, I didn't know if you guys had all that fun food back in Germany. And, let's talk about, because you play a lot in the JV game. So what are just some of your favorite things about playing basketball here?
It's about the crowds and the publicum and like the people who watch the game, and there's like a huge atmosphere in the gym. We play and all the crowds chanting and giving you energy, and that's awesome. Huh?
Yeah, and you normally have started, and you're very good. Have you practiced back home in Germany, or are you kind of a self-taught basketball player?
I have practiced a lot in Germany. I actually play in 2 teams in Germany because we have like a club, so I can play in 2 teams, and I think I'm really lucky that I can play here on that level.
It's definitely going to help you translate over back when you go home, isn't it? Because is it more intense here, would you say, as far as competition, or is the competition just as good back home?
It's way more intense here, so the practice is way harder, and we practice way more, way often. And we watch the film and all that stuff. That's like, we really prepare for the opponents. And
yeah, absolutely. And you have another game tonight. And how often do you guys play in Germany? You guys play every day like we do here, or practice every day?
We practice like 3 times a week and play once a weekend.
And so how do you prepare yourself coming here where you play 3 games in a week or 2 games in 1 week?
That's really, really questioning yourself. So it's hard. Like, I'm getting tired after games and practice, and I lay at home and just want to relax. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure we all do after that. But Jaden, let's go back to you. And I know you mentioned that shot. I'm just going to keep talking about it briefly. You mentioned it was the best moment of your high school career because literally everybody on the court. Martin, did you rush the court? You rushed the court, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody rushed the court and literally tackled you, Jaden. And how did that feel, being under there, just knowing that like your whole community is literally right behind you?
Yeah, that was just an awesome moment. Throughout these 4 years, I just haven't experienced anything like that, and it was just amazing to see that happen. And
yeah, and Jaden, let's just keep talking about this. And, Martin, if you want to chip in as well, you guys both started, and you guys just came out with such energy. Martin, I'm going to start with you. You just handled the ball really well. And, it's definitely a lot different tempo in a varsity game than a JV game. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, that's correct. So the JV game, like, it doesn't go that fast. We have that much turnovers, and it's just different. Like, it's the varsity game is like you have to be there and everything has to be on your best. And
Yeah. So were you nervous starting varsity for a little bit?
yeah, I was nervous, and every time I had the ball, I was like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah, and
really, really careful.
you know, and we saw that, and Jaden, you as well. You guys both started, and you guys came out to a hot start. Jaden, talk about that because you know you, Miller, and Hardy are kind of the leaders. So how did you guys lead the players such as Lanier and Martin that don't necessarily get to see a lot of the varsity playing time, but definitely came up and, you know, Ray got a big rebound, passed it out to Miller. Miller hit the big three to get the crowd going. So what was just going through your mind to help those guys that necessarily don't get a start a varsity game?
I think just it being senior night was a big deal. Emotions running high, and we were just ready to go. That pumped our energy up and got us ready to go.
And let's go back to you. And Martin, do you know, have you ever told your parents that they can watch you? Have you told them about that?
Yeah, I've told them they can watch the videos, and they watched them, and they said like the same of me. Like, it's really awesome. And when you see the game, and yesterday the game, I told them, and Jane did the game winner, and all the student section won on the court. And
so they actually do get to watch you play. So that's very exciting then that they get to watch you play. And you know, if you wanted to, we can get this so you can take it back home with you on a flash drive. So if you bring a flash drive, if you want to listen to your parents. But let's just talk about everything. What has been your favorite experience so far in America or just in Indiana alone?
it's the school and like the school spirit, how the people actually, I don't know, like you maybe don't like the class in school, but you go to the games and watch the games and watch your team playing, and you fire them, and it gets hyped. All that's
Yeah. Are you
awesome.
playing any other sports this year?
Yeah, I played soccer in the first try.
How'd that go for you? Was that exciting or?
Yeah, it was not as exciting as basketball, but it was nice too. Yeah.
And then, are you gonna play anything in the fall, spring?
Probably not. I think I need a break after.
You need a break. Yeah, sports are a little bit different. You know, as you said it yourself, they're a little bit tougher, aren't they? Because you practice every day, especially right after school. And what is your favorite class this year? You have a favorite class?
Yeah, I think economics. It was last try I had economics, and I like that class. Yeah.
So is it a lot different than it is back home as far as like how the economy works? And you know,
Yeah.
that's just
We don't even have economics at home. We have only like 8 classes: math, German, and English, and these are just like basic classes. So here there are special classes like construction systems or.
And have you ever been able to take any of the fun like CTE classes, like a class outside of the actual classroom that you get to experience a little bit hands-on, or no?
I think I don't have any class of that.
You don't have any of the class of that. And let's talk about that. You talked about learning German. So when did you begin to learn English? Because we don't actually teach it in high school. Did you learn it really young?
I learned it in class 3. We learned it already in elementary school, and
So you learned it in elementary school. And how long was it hard to pick up on English, or?
I'm not really good in English in my school, so it was the first years were really, really hard, and I just started learning the last 2 years really hard because I wanted to do that exchange year. And
Oh, so you actually just learned full English in the last 2 years. So that's kind of exciting then, and that's pretty fun. But Jaden, I'm going to jump back to you. Coach talked about you guys were a little bit gassed last night, as we saw. So how do you guys prepare after such a big win last night? How do you guys go into tonight's game and be ready for it?
I just think we have to go into it, just change our mindset and get ready to go, and just keep up going hard, and we just gotta push through it for one more game.
And does it mean anything to you more, because you're going to know it's very intense, because they're coming into NLC next year. So do you guys see this as an NLC game, or do you guys just see it as another game on your schedule? Or have you guys not really talked about that much?
We haven't really talked about that much, but I think it would be a great game to come out and get a win tonight, and just to show that what they're coming into next year.
Yeah, and they're only 8-9 this season, so how do you not overlook them?
I think you just never overlook your opponent. Like the record, just don't underestimate them, because anyone's capable of winning a high school basketball game in Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin, final question for you here. And we learned a little bit about you, but on the basketball court, you're very good. You're very active with your hands. So what's your favorite memory about just in the one single basketball season? Did you have a favorite moment that you did in a basketball game?
yeah, I think it was the first game against Fairfield. It wasn't even a big gym, but I played there and I got points and steals, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a little scary, wasn't it? You said that's what the coach was telling me, that you were kind of a little bit nervous because
I
there were
was
so many people.
really nervous in that first game, and there wasn't even many people watching there, but I was already nervous because it's the first high school game, and I knew it is a difference, and I have to.
Yeah, and Martin, we appreciate you tuning in. And Jaden, once again, it's always a pleasure. But thanks you guys for tuning in. Do you guys have practice you got to get to?
I think we're going to go watch the freshman team in the tournament.
Okay, so that makes sense. So you guys get out of practice nice. You guys have a big game. But once again, that's senior Jaden Boyer and senior Martin Kant. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix. Good morning and welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm Braxton Spray, joined alongside Coach O'Connell. And, Coach Everingham calls you the brains of the basketball team, as we like to call it. And, Coach, you have the scouting report, but we'll talk about that briefly. I just want to hear your input on that game last night. It was a huge game, but, you got to bounce back from that huge game. But just talk about that game and how exciting it was.
Yeah, going into this week, I'm sure Coach Everingham talked about how big of a game it was for us. And, the players and to try to keep Coach Everingham's attention is all on Goshen. This week is all about Goshen. There's no talk about Mishawaka until this morning. But in the background, I'm doing my work on Mishawaka. I'm doing my work on Westview. So we got film on them. We got stats on them. We got a scouting report for the guys ready to go. But I just first want to say how happy I am for our seniors. Guys have been here 4 years with Coach Everingham, and a kid like Jaden Boyer making that last second shot is just an amazing story. And, kind of caps off the last 2 years where this is great kids. I'm just so happy for them.
And we talked to Coach Everingham, and he told us to talk to you about it. The morning cup of coffee that kind of drugged you here. And I just want to hear your intake of the story because he talked about you came from Warsaw, which, of course, we know is a very dominant program, and you left that dominant program to build something. And this is the first winning season you guys have had. And just what does that mean to you? And, that decision, just talk about that decision.
Yeah, Wawasee has kind of been my second home since about 10 years ago. You guys may know Mr. Walmer, the principal, yep. And he's my cousin. So he's my little cousin. We grew up together. He's best friend for life. So it'll start back there about 11, 12 years ago, and he recruited me to be Coach Mishler's freshman basketball coach. And I had been out of college basketball for about 10 years, and I kind of missed it, and I was ready for a change in life, so I did that. And so my first start coaching was at Wawasee, and then Coach Mishler resigned, and I took a year off and decided, what am I going to do with my life? But I really found out that year off I loved basketball, and I needed to be around the game and enjoy coaching and working with young kids in basketball. So had the opportunity to go to Warsaw and coach with my former JV basketball coach, Doug Ogle. So that was a great, amazing opportunity. Started as a middle school coach. I coached the freshman team. Then my last year at Warsaw, I coached the JV team and had some really good players and some really good teams, and really enjoyed it. And then that afternoon came calling. Actually, Coach Zolman retired late in the summer. Yep. So there was a math opening at the school, and I reached out to Vince Beasley, who's the assistant principal here at the time, and I said, hey, I'm a little bit interested in that. What's going on up there?
A little bit.
And it literally took about 2 minutes, and I got a call from Vince, and I got a call from John saying, hey, how interested are you? I was like, well, let's talk and let's see here. And, I love my place here at Warsaw, but when John came down, and by the way, if John was a used car salesman, he'd probably be able to retire by now. He is a salesman. He is a wonderful salesman. But he came down to the house, and my wife and I were living in Pierceton at the time, and that cup of coffee we had on my back deck, and told me what he needed, what he was building. I've known John for 20-some years from college, so it was a no-brainer when he said, let's do this together, and I need some help, and you can help me. And it's been a wonderful experience and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of ups and downs. But last night kind of capped it off as this has been one of your more dominant seasons. But, let's put the Goshen game behind us. Let's talk about this Mishawaka game we have coming up. Coach talked about it, but how do you mentally prepare your players? Because they looked absolutely gassed at the end of the Goshen game.
Yeah, they did. I'm not sure, honestly. You try and think of a couple things you can do scheme-wise, X's and O's. Can you play a little more zone than man-to-man? Can you save Miller's legs by not making him chase around a guy? Can you run some stuff offensively that don't wear your players out? And then you start thinking about personnel. How can you play more guys? And we're probably going to have to do a little bit of both. X's and O's, we're going to do some stuff to slow them down. We might have to play some extra players. The problem is Mishawaka is really, really physical, and they full court press throughout the game, so you don't really get a break. If the games were flip-flopped and we played Mishawaka last night and Goshen tonight, I think we'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable. We'd be super tired today, but we know that Goshen doesn't quite pressure out full court like Mishawaka is going to do. So we have our work cut out for us tonight and our hands full. But I'm confident our guys are up for the challenge. I texted Hardy this morning. He asked what time they needed to come in, and I said 11 or so, whatever. Coach is going to send out a message here in a little bit. But how you feeling? He's like, a little tired, but I'm ready to get another win. So that's kind of our guys' mentality this year. So they'll be okay. They're tired for sure, but they'll battle through it like they have all year.
Coach, talk about the chemistry between Everingham and you. I mean, whenever to have a timeout, I notice he always comes out. It looks like you have your computer. I'm just kidding. And, instead of your chalkboard and you're telling him all kinds of stuff, it's got to be such a neat mathematical and statistical timeout. Almost seems like all the time.
We've both been around the game for a while. We both played college basketball together. So our backgrounds are kind of similar that way, but our brains work in completely opposite directions.
Isn't that neat?
It is neat because it's a good dynamic and it works. And, sometimes I think I got a good idea and his idea is a lot better. And he says it and I say, oh, yeah, let's do that, coach. Or sometimes I say, no, we can't do that. We're friends, so we can argue with each other and I can yell at him on the bench. And
that's good.
So it hasn't happened very often, but I've maybe gotten a little heated with him a few times, but in a good way. And we love each other, and that's not going to change. So we can talk about anything, and I give my suggestions. Sometimes he listens, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes like we talked last night, I had to give him a dissertation to get him to call timeout at a point in the third or fourth quarter last night, because he loves to save his timeouts till the end, and for good reason. And he does a nice job with them. And you saw we kind of needed those timeouts all 5 of them at the end. So we need those timeouts, but. So just fun things like that where we laugh about it after the game.
And let's talk about this Mishawaka game. You talked about the press, but what other things are Mishawaka going to throw at us that we haven't seen all year, or things that we struggle with?
So if you want to compare them to a team we played this year, Elkhart Memorial is the most similar team. They're fast-paced. They press full court, man-to-man the whole game. They're not as tall. They are as athletic. They have a point guard named Trent Johnson that averages about 16 points a game. He's really, really good. He's a streaky shooter. He might not have the best percentage in the world, but when he gets hot, I saw film. They played New Prairie a week or so ago, and they were down by 6 points or so in the third quarter, 4 minutes left, halfway through the third quarter. And then boom, boom, boom. They shot 7 threes in a row and hit 6 of them. Hit 6 threes in this matter of a couple minutes. So they go down 6. They're up 10 next thing you know, and that's the ball game because they play good defense. They're well coached. Ron Heglinski is a Hall of Fame 400 win coach. Been around the block, coached in state championship games. He's a good coach. So they'll be tough.
And not just that, but who are some other personnel that might give us trouble? Do you have any other players? Just besides your point guard. Who's going to stop Hardy? Do they have a big man down low that can maybe give Hardy a little bit of a challenge?
Yeah, that's the one thing that they're kind of lacking a little bit when I compare them to Memorial is their size. So, like Alex Boggs and Nick Hoopengardner are their 2 post players that start, and they're both 6'3". They're both fairly athletic. They're not rim grabbers or anything like that, but they're strong. A lot of these guys are football players. Mishawaka's a football school.
Yep.
A lot of these guys came on late from football season, so they're maybe just getting their legs right now after coming off a long football season. But they got a couple big guys down there, but they're not overly tall. I mean, 6'3" is about as tall as they go.
So what do you think you're going to have to do to get the win tonight? Are you going to attack the paint, or is it going to be more of a game we saw last night that's going to be kind of an outside, just shoot threes, or are you guys just directly down in the paint?
I'm never going to tell you we're just going to shoot threes.
Yeah, absolutely.
The secret to our success this year has by far been our ability to get to the basket, whether we're passing into the post to Hardy or Miller, driving to the basket, or Duke's curling around and getting an inside basket that way, or Salazar carry making a play, getting the ball inside. or Boyer catching the ball underneath the basket and throwing it behind his head and making a shot. But our goal is to get the ball to the paint somehow, and our goal defensively is to keep them out of the paint. We have to protect the paint tonight. They are really quick and really fast and have the ability to penetrate. That's why you might see us play a little bit of zone defense today, just to keep them out of the lane.
Yeah, that was my next question, Coach. As a matter of fact, a lot of teams are kind of worried about your defense ability. So what's your defensive mindset going into tonight? Do you have any ideas of what you're going to run, or is it just kind of whatever Mishawaka, the personnel they throw at you?
Yeah, I think it's no secret. We've ran a box and one all year long, and that's kind of our base defense. I told a buddy of mine, actually Goshen High School's girls basketball coach, I said, our base defense is a box and one. He just laughed. I go, no, seriously. We're pretty good at it. And Goshen found out last night our box and one. Miller can flat out guard anybody in the state of Indiana. I believe that. Any guard, he can stay in front. He can rip them. And he's been so good for us this year. And when we go box tonight, which we probably will, he'll be on Johnson, number 12. But like I said earlier, we're gassed. We're a little tired. He can't run around chasing a really fast point guard all night long. So we will play some 3-2 zone. We'll pack it in a little bit. We'll make them beat us from outside. They are not the best three-point shooting team in the world. Obviously, I talked about how their ability to get hot is there, but they're going to have to make some threes to beat us tonight because we're going to protect the paint, and then we have to rebound. So the last key to the game is, I think that was the key I told you last night too, is rebound. And we rebounded really well, especially in the first half last night. We rebounded really well, so we'll have to do that tonight. They're a little bit more athletic than Goshen was, so our ability to hit somebody, block somebody out hard, and go after the ball is going to be big for us tonight. Yeah,
and final key is not just away from the Mishawaka game, but Austin Miller is very close to that steals record. I know you don't want to tell exactly how close to get his, just to get his head to wrap around that. But what does that mean to have a defender such as Austin Miller that, as you said, can literally guard anybody in the state, and that really opens up because they have to pressure to pass it off, and they also often get turnovers, and other players, Stover, unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but other players can get steals just because of Austin Miller's defensive presence.
Yeah, it allows our other guys to be really active, and you watch someone like Cameron Salazar that's active with his hands. Jaden Boyer last night slides over in our rotation and gets a steal in a big spot. But it's almost like when you have a really good player on offense, it opens up open shots for other guys.
Yep.
So when you have a really good player on defense, it's one guy can take away the other team's best player. Indiana high school basketball, there's a lot of good basketball players, but most teams don't have more than one really, really good player. And if they do, they're a really good team. Like, Northridge has 4 really good players.
Yep.
So, even if Miller's in that Northridge game, we're going to struggle a little bit because there's so many other guys that can play. So, last night, Bechtel hits a couple shots and their little guard hits a couple shots. But, Miller, sure, Hogan was probably over his average a couple points, but Miller did an excellent job on him. And this allows the rest of the guys to kind of free up and be a little more free and move around and play defense that way.
Yeah, and absolutely. Coach, thanks for the scouting report. It's always good to get the official scouting report. But once again, I'm Braxton Gray, joined alongside Kaz Dino, and this is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix.